Turtle power.
Yes.
Turtle power.
Today, Randall and I are talking about a movie that is celebrating its 30th anniversary. It came out in 1990. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is based on the graphic novel and the 80s cartoon show. It's featuring four turtles who live in the sewer in New York and are coming out to the public to fight the Foot Clan and Shredder. So, Randall, it's been 30 years. This is a movie that we know pretty well. What do you think about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Well, this recent watch through, I tried to watch it and think, all right, not nostalgic. Don't be nostalgic. And obviously, that's a really hard thing to fight. But I love this movie. I still love this movie. I think it's one of the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies that has ever been made. And I think it holds up really, really well. I mean, yes, you can tell the suits are, plasticky foam, but I don't care. I think the story's good. I think that the acting from the human perspective is good. It makes you feel everything. The best thing about this movie is that it is even so much better than the CGI stuff that we've recently got with the Michael Bay remakes and everything, because those are just so fake, and this one you can actually feel with the characters.
Oh, I agree. This is a movie that is probably the first movie when I was a kid that I could quote from like start to finish. As my siblings will tell you, I watched this movie over and over and over and over again as a kid. And same thing, I was trying to watch this thinking like, all right, don't just be nostalgic. Don't just be nostalgic over this movie. But I do think it is a good movie. And a big part of it is the story. You actually care about the relationships between like the characters and the over arc of, what it means to be a teenager, not just as the turtles, but as a big part of like the Foot Clan are these kids that are kind of like cast outs, runaways.
Disillusioned, disaffected, teenagers, and that was definitely a big thing in New York at the time. Plus, the crime rate was high in New York at the time. The movie talks a lot about what's going on in society, and it's all about family. And Casey Jones has that line at the end. You think this and him are family? And he just kind of scoffs at it like you don't even know.
Exactly. Family, people looking out for each other, being there for each other. And like you said, this is a big part of that film. And I think that's what makes this film so good. It's not just, hey, let's throw in these characters that people already like from other, mediums, and let's just put some action scenes and stuff together. I mean, it has a good story to go with it, and I think that's what makes this a good film.
So what's really interesting about this movie, and you had mentioned, based on the cartoon, and I wouldn't even say it is, honestly. This is based on the graphic novel, and you mentioned that, but like, if you go look at the original novelization of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they pretty much picked this story up and put it back down for the most part. It's very close to those original beats. And the thing about this is I sat there watching this movie, and there was a huge outcry when this movie was new about how violent it was. It was such an outcry because it was made for kids. It was like, hey, you're taking this property that's for kids and you're making it violent. They have weapons and they're fighting, and I'm like, well, yes, it's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, there was such a huge outcry that the second movie, I didn't believe this until I actually watched it again. The second movie, they never once used their weapons. That was how strong the outcry for this movie being violent was. And I look at it today and I'm like, any billion-dollar Marvel movie is far more violent than this, and they get a pass.
Well, there's no gore really in this movie, other than you'll see like the Shredder near the end when he's tumbling down. He's got like a cut on his back. People do get hurt, like they're holding themselves and stuff. But yeah, I mean they have like swords and stuff, but it's not like people are losing limbs or it's not that's not showing like cuts and stuff. Most of the fighting and stuff is, kind of hand to hand and stuff. But a lot of those scenes are fun too, because are probably some of the most fun scenes, because that's where the turtles are kind of,
Cracking
joking the
jokes.
most.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Donnie, would you say he's shell shocked? Too
Oh, yeah,
derivative.
exactly.
It was a shell of a good hit. Whack! I like it. Step up.
I think though too, they don't just have jokes the whole time. This movie also is able to sit on like the really serious parts, like when Splinter is gone and stuff, and some of the friction between the turtles, specifically Leonardo and Raphael. I mean, it's good tones for this movie.
Yeah, this movie does so much right, and so many movies could really learn from it. Like, you take out the turtles, you still have a good movie. You know, they're just the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because that's what the movie's called. But you just put normal humans in that position, and you replace Splinter with just an old wizened master, and you still have a really good film regardless. Um, One of the things that I really liked about it in particular, especially on this most recent rewatch, was in comparison to the Michael Bay films, the characters, you get that Michelangelo is the funny one, but he's not. That's not his character. He just happens to have a good sense of humor and he's willing to crack a joke. In the Michael Bay film, Michelangelo is a caricature of someone who just makes jokes all the time. Donatello is just super, super intelligent. Like, that is not what the 1990s version was. You get all of the characters and they are the way they are, not they are the way they are because the script says so.
Yep, I agree. One thing you were mentioning before, that you enjoyed the practical effects in this, other than the CGI that we see a lot. I think that actually might be reversed for the new generation of kids. I think some people actually do prefer the CGI, which I'm kind of disappointed that's not me. But I just noticed some reaction of people who were watching the new Dark Crystal show, that they just couldn't get into it because it contained puppets and stuff in it. And that's another thing too, is like you can see parts like their mouths moving and stuff, and you can tell that like Splinter's hands are almost like a Skeksis hands from that era. But for someone me who grew up with this, I prefer this stuff. I like this a lot more than like the over CGI. They kind of don't feel like they live in the same world, where this actually, even though it is kind of, I mean, you can tell it's a puppet or whatever, but it still feels lived in this world.
Dude, the you had mentioned Splinter. Splinter in this just looks fabulous to me. They do close-ups on him. I mean, real hardcore close-ups on his Muppet, and my God, he looks like a rat. Like, it's such a crazy amount of detail that the Jim Henson shop put into this. And yeah, the like I said, the turtles, they're, I'm not gonna say the weak link, but like, it's obviously how fake they are, but man, Splinter is just, it just knocked it out of the park. And when I think back to the Michael Bay version with that Splinter, and I'm like, that's just absurd. He's supposed to be an old rat. Yeah, and he's nimble and he's jumping all over the place like Yoda in in episode 2. And everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. Splinter's just being a badass." And I'm like, I liked it when Splinter was vulnerable, and that had to, there was a reason for his sons to have to elevate themselves. You know?
Well, I think because there's a big difference, like you said, too, between the turtles and Splinter. Splinter's a full, puppet kind of thing. Where, like you said, the turtles are kind of like guys in suits, and then the puppeteers are like working their mouth and the eyes, kind of thing.
And they do a fantastic job. I mean, the scene where they're out in the woods meditating, and they get a message from Splinter, as corny as that kind of is, it's so emotional and it works on that level because, I mean, they put in little tears, even though I don't think turtles actually have tear ducts. I'm not 100% sure on that. Not a scientist.
But it brings emotion to the film, and this was all done by the Jim Henson production, and this is one of the last films that Jim Henson worked on while he was still alive. So definitely well done
fun story, he wasn't happy with it because he was another one of those people who was anti-violence, and he was like, I'm not very good or not very happy about what we did here, bringing these things to life." Which is a shame because it's such well done, and I just love this movie. I can't say it enough, really. I feel like the nostalgia kicks in whether I try to avoid it or not.
Yep, it definitely does. This movie's still quotable, even though I think some of the references, some of like the movie references, are older and stuff that newer teens and stuff won't really get. For us adults, I mean, if you enjoyed this as a kid, you think you're still gonna enjoy it now. I think some older teens will still enjoy this film, even not getting all the references or knowing that. But younger kids, I mean, I think I don't think someone who watches this, who's the same age that I was when I first saw this, is necessarily going to enjoy it as much. But definitely teens and adults who lived through the 90s Ninja Turtles era, not necessarily the 2000s, the new Ninja Turtles.
You definitely have something there with all that like 80s nomenclature. It's part of, the turtles like cowabunga, awesome, excellent, getting like a Bill and Ted kind of vibe almost from it. Um so like it dates itself for sure. I mean, it's 30 years old this year. I can't even believe it's 30 years old. I'm getting old. I'm getting ancient, you know.
For
But
30 years old, I think it did age well.
yeah, oh yeah, I do. Honestly, it's if you look back at it and you're one of those people who does look at older movies with nostalgia, you're going to look at this and be like, this is so much better than what we're getting now. And I would do a small shout out to the actual movie TMNT, the CGI one, the all CGI one, because that picks up from the same storylines, and that's got a great story. And I think Patrick Stewart voices the bad guy in that. Um, Casey Jones is in it. April's in it. They all have really good things, and Leo and Raphael are button heads. So if you like the original 1990 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you go straight to TMNT, I don't remember what year it is, but the TMNT CGI one, it'll fit like a glove. You'll like that too if you haven't seen it. I recommend seeing both.
Yep, I totally agree. A lot of callbacks to these movies in that one stuff. What do you guys think about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Does it still hold up for you, or are you gonna check it out for the first time? Randall and I would like to know. If you like this review, give us
T
a
U
thumbs
R
up.
T L E power.
Yes,
TURTLE power. Yes.
yes, yes. If you like this review, be sure to give us a thumbs up. See more great content and see Randall and I sing a little bit more. Be sure to subscribe for our other videos. We also got a lot of content and stuff on our Facebook page. Keep you up to date with what we're working on. For now, I'm Matt in Michigan. Have a good day.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. Tequila!